Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest? One of all. Who? Who? Not me. I don't know about being fair. I don't think I was ever
The
accused of
tail.
that. Oh no, it's Hillary, Chucky's mum. So, what's going on out there in paranormal land? Tonight we're talking about mirrors, and I wanted to talk about mirrors for a long time because I have one, and and it's I'm living in a place. It's a rental, and it was furnished, so I'm actually making my exit shortly, but it's got this antique mirror on the wall in the bedroom. And the second I walked in and looked at that thing, I'm like, ugh, you know, it really, I felt like somebody was looking back at me. I didn't see anybody looking back at me, but I felt like it. And I felt this guy, I felt the presence of this male that pretty much put him in the age range. And I kind of feel like he died here. So at a different time, talking to the landlord downstairs, they said that they came up here and smudged the apartment. And usually people don't do that unless someone like dies. Something terrible happens. Usually you don't smudge unless you have to smudge. It's not something maybe some people like to do it in new houses or whatever the hell they got. I think it was something different. But mirrors. But I told him get the heck out of here. I said, I got no time for your crap. You gotta lay it on the line. I'm not a terrible person. I got no time for your crap. I'm not gonna deal with it. I send you out. You surround yourself with white light, you know. Just let it crank. So good. Screw them anyway. That's what I say. I'm the one paying rent. Yes, you know, stop freeloading. Go off me. Go haunt somebody who can afford it. So anyway, out of all the investigations that I've done in my life, paranormal investigation specifically, looking for spirits, right? Out of all of those, if there was ever a mirror in the place, I really like to gather a whole bunch of images in that mirror. And I'm also a big believer in taking the over the shoulder shot because spirits will try to trick you. They'll try to avoid you. They will try to hide from you, thinking that you can like see them automatically with your eyeballs, you know. So they tend to mock you too at times. But if you walk around, a lot of them will follow behind you. There's probably one sitting behind you right now. You know what I mean? So I take the over every once in a while over the shoulder shot. I got so into taking these kinds of pictures, I started using hunting cameras. So the dude that I used to go and do investigations with, Pete, we have a nice little array between us of these hunting cameras, some infrared, some not. And the ones that weren't infrared, I liked using ultraviolet bulb, just the bulb, twisting. You can go to Home Depot, buy the UV bulb. You can buy the socket, the receptacle it sits in. We had one that had like these little like forceps on the end. You can it's a clamp. You can clamp it onto things and point in any direction you want. I'm a big believer in light. And when you're looking for that type of a manifestation of spirit, I think that it goes well beyond our standard light that we see and what we see with our eyes, which is a very small spectrum as opposed to what really is represented if we reference light and infrared and ultraviolet and all that. There's a lot, and there's a lot we can't see with our naked eye. We can see some of it with the corner of our eye because our eyeballs and retina and all that do a great job of filtering out this UV light and infrared light. That's why people see shadow figures in the corner of their eye. It's easier to see, which made sense that if that's going to be the case, you can use that type of light. And let me know. Let me tell you, I know this. I've got the best photos ever using UV bulbs. Best photos ever of a full body apparition. Best photos ever. So there's your evidence, right? Anyway, it comes down to this: what mirrors represent, what they reflect, what they hold, uh, and not just mirrors, but also glass. Because I've gotten similar images in windows, windows of houses, apartment buildings, of people that didn't belong in those photos, you know. So it's always been an interest, and you guys say, okay, why is this? This isn't something new, you know. I mean, let's talk about the history of reflective glass. So the ancient Romans, this I kind of put this little thing in my Facebook, which is what I write up on my banner. So you're gonna have to hear it again. The ancient Romans believed that mirrors or any reflective surface was a reflection of the human soul, and they must not be misused. And something terrible could happen to the soul, or it could be lost. Could lose your soul in the mirror. Many cultures around the world feel that mirrors are portals to other worlds, predictors for the future, and windows to the afterlife. Some cultures believe that mirrors can watch you as you watch them, a sort of two-way viewing screen to other dimensions. There is a centuries old practice of covering the mirror in a house where a loved one is dying, and as the superstition goes, it's due to the fact that you might see death or the devil himself in a reflection, coming to gather the souls of the departed. And also, in the same vein, some say the dead get confused and pass into the mirror instead of the realm they were intended to go into, the afterlife. So already mirrors have a thing about them, right? Because so many people get bugged out, you know, in their reflection as it is, but what the mirror represents. And I know that about even Hasidic Jews. When a loved one dies, they go in the room and they cover up the mirror, or when no one's in there, they go and cover up the mirror. They only uncover it when they use it. That's really interesting stuff. That these cultures are all adaptive of this mindset about mirrors, right? So they say if you cover the mirror, it helps them pass with ease. So the Victorians used heavy black cloth on all mirrors in the homes of the newly deceased, as their fear and belief in spiritualism was so strong, and their belief in the afterlife, of course, of the protection of their relatives even stronger. Victorians were very obsessed with the spiritual movement and investigation into spirits and seances and communicating with the dead. You see, it was looked down on, though, from it used to be kind of hand in hand with a lot of religion, even like down in Mexico and whatever. You've got, all kinds of festivals that had to do with people conjuring up their loved ones and talking to them, and, doing that type of thing. But in other religions, it's you don't want to do that. They kind of point to all kinds of sorcery and whatever they didn't like, they labeled as bad. We'll just put it that way. So, but from the interest in the Victorian age came the whole parlor and mirror game that exists today. People play with mirrors. Even kids at a party, they'll tell a scary story, or they'll do the mirror thing. They keep staring at themselves in the mirror, or they do things like chanting Bloody Mary into a mirror 3 times and see if she'll show. Or lighting a candle and watching your future husband show his face behind you. If some dude shows his face behind me, he's getting my elbow. It's not, I ain't got no future husband, boy. I got. They'll tell you that now. You know who the hell you think's reading this article? All right. Mirrors provide endless amusement and still to this day at Halloween and children's parties. Mirrors were made in early concept with silver as a backing to them, which, made them turn black over time. Silver oxidizes. Due to this process, the mirrors took on an otherly world appearance, allowing the human eye to matrix shapes. So there's also, people, well, the mirror, it's got some marks to it and it's not like a demon. But what about the mirrors and the glass that don't have that? They're just new or old mirrors and glass. Mirrors also fog and blotch and blah, 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 blah. So many experts say that mirrors are portals in which ghosts and spirits can access our world, stepping in and out of the mirror to come in and come out of the world from their own. One of the most famous mirrors in the world is the large mirror that hangs in the Myrtles plantation in Louisiana, said the must be the most haunted place in America. I've heard that so many times. The most haunted place in America. I've heard that so many times. First time about this place, usually it's someplace in Georgia, it's Cyprus, whatever, this, that, and that. There's a lot of haunted places. You think Gettysburg is not haunted? You think it's not, haunted places in America? Come on, man. Come on, man. Many guests report seeing apparitions and ghostly faces within the mirror. The story is that a plantation worker murdered a family in the house, trapping their reflections in the mirror at the time of the murders. Some say that they hear the cries for help coming from the mirror itself. Another famous mirror, reported to be the most haunted place in America, owned by Bela Lugosi, the actor best known for playing the original Dracula, the 1930s adaptation, or the original. Never mind. uh, it was rumored that he was into the occult and that he would use a mirror to try to contact and scry or see into the mirror to communicate with spirits. So you talk about divination is kind of Ouija board, scrying, dowsing rods, whatever vessel that you use, right? But mirrors are also in people's homes. Not every home has a Ouija board. A lot of them do, which is kind of funny because it's not really a game. It's not by any means of a game. you know, if you stand back and look at a Ouija board, it's not a game. It's a way to communicate with dead people, which is weird in of itself. Even me in the paranormal world thinks that's weird to have one in every home. Okay, it was rumored that Bela Lugosi was in the occult. Of course, we said that. Some say it's because he did all these things and communicated with spirits, and that's why it's all haunted. The mirror was later in a room after Lugosi's death, and in this room, a murder took place. Some people say this mirror picked up all the energy of this murder. Ugh. There were rumors about it for years, in fact, that one could see things in it and feel terrible after gazing into it. Ah, yes. It's the way I feel about television. It is now in a Haunted Objects Museum in Las Vegas. I'm going to be out there soon, man. I'll go check it out for you guys. I'll take a picture of it. Many psychologists say the mirrors work on our psychological roots to disturb us because it's hard to see and interpret our own image, our own self, our own sense of self, our us. The matrixing or identifying shapes that aren't there, so the brain has some kind of tangible form to view from nothingness. Ah, yes, that too. Shapes by candlelight or low light, also caused by human eye to create forms and shapes. All right, that's all interesting, right? There's a lot of naysayers out there, and whenever there's an issue or a thing, you're gonna find people on all kinds of sides, right? With me, I like to explore, and I know that I've gotten photos from mirrors that had images in it. There wasn't dirt or smudges or the silver was going bad or anything like that. Not playing a parlor game, not interested in any of that. You know, so whenever people try to explain things, I understand they are just people. And that these are the same people who invented religion, the same people who like to control everything, even the things they don't understand. They're very submissive, and automatically they're more apt to come up with a possible explanation and stand by that 100% than to understand any other explanation, which shows me how limited, locked in a box mentality a lot of people have. So for me, I'm an explorer. I like to know things. And I know things from experience, from doing and understanding, or even interviewing, talking to people that do and understand, people who are have passionate and are dedicated into finding these things out, right? So the Mayans, the Maya believed there were multiple worlds. In addition to the human world, portals connected these worlds and allowed active engagement between the Maya and their gods. How do you figure that? Right? How do you establish these portals? So, without portals and the ability to communicate between the worlds, the Maya belief system could not function. Evidence suggests that Maya believed reflective surfaces, mirrors, and water surfaces were portals to spiritual worlds. In this thesis, they examined the portal. This is very interesting. I can't read you the whole thing because it's too freaking long. Uh, I should actually post it on my Facebook because these guys went in depth on the Mayans and and their connection with mirrors. So let me see. Let me get that. All right. So the research contributes to a deeper understanding of the relationship between the Maya, their gods, and the particular aspect of material culture mirrors, and how the elite use mirrors also in their relationship with God as a source of power. But they're all pointing to mirrors and reflection as power, right? And it's the basis of their culture. The portals, their connection with their God, is the basis. So if you think ancient aliens, you think that, let's say, I'm gonna float this past you guys because I know that you listen to the show and you're evolved enough to understand what I'm saying without applying any kind of a limited belief. That's the problem with a lot of these man-made religions. Their people apply their belief of real life by these things, and then they use it clouds their vision, it clouds their judgment, and it takes you away from your true path, which is knowledge, right? And understanding yourself and others, and hey, learning how to love and being kind. How's that? You don't find that a lot in religion. It's hard to find. There's a lot of war going on in there, a lot of people suffering. And if you don't believe in what they believe, they burn you, stomp you, cut you to pieces, crush you, whatever. So there's that too. So, but a lot of civilizations used scrying as a method of communication. Scrying, you can also call it seeing, peeping, but not the peeping Tom. You're looking through someone's window and you're checking them out, that type of thing, and the police show up. You can't say, "Oh, officer, I was only scrying." It's part of my religion. They're gonna be like, you can scry in your reflection of the sink of the toilet in the who's gal. So don't do that. So scrying is the practice of looking into a suitable medium in the hopes of detecting significant messages or visions. Even a crystal ball. People use all kinds of stuff for that, right? The objective uh, might be personal guidance, prophecy, revelation, inspiration, but down to the ages, scrying in various forms have been means of divination and fortune telling. It remains popular in occult circles, discussed in many media, both modern and centuries old. So, how's this? I'm going to throw this one at you. Do mirrors reflect ultraviolet and infrared light? Because we know mirrors reflect light. You shine a flashlight into a mirror, it's going to bounce back. You're going to see it in the mirror, and it's going to shine behind you. It's a reprocessed image if you think about it, or an extension of the energy that you're putting into it. So, but when it comes to infrared light, when it comes to ultraviolet light, do you think it's got the same properties? And this is going to freak you out. The answer is going to freak you out. All right. So, think of your average mirror in your average house. The backings that they use for these mirrors are metal backings. They've used gold, they've used silver, they've used aluminum, right? All kinds of stuff to cover the glass. Then they paint over that, and that creates the reflection. All of these metals can are highly conductive of energy, right? Gold, especially silver. This is what we use in our computers. This is what we use. Aluminum has the ability to allow electric and other frequencies go around an object without affecting the object. So you see a lot of people like with pictures mocking the survivalist types with aluminum hats on, and they're wearing that hat because they always look like Hershey Kisses to me, which is actually pretty funny. They wear the hats because they think that people are scanning their brain, and why would you want to anyway? No offense to those guys with the aluminum hats, but you don't really have any information anybody needs to know or wants to know. I don't care what's going on with Pornhub these days. You know what I mean? The stuff these people know, I don't want to know. I don't care. But when it comes to, you see a lot of these wallets are being sold now that have aluminum on the outskirts. That's what they're made with. So when you're going into a place, a business, they can't scan your cards in your wallet. That is a very real threat in any place that's real. That has, because it's going to have those types of hackers that will be out there looking for information. So, but do you really need one? Probably not. Maybe if you're Mr. or Mrs. Government Agent and you're trying to protect the world. I don't know what the hell the secret is anymore, but anyway, so check this out. Now, so aluminum has good reflective, fairly deep into the infrared part of the spectrum. It is reflective, but increasingly lossy at UV wavelengths. The glass coating will truncate the reflectivity more severely, as it's only transparent between 300 to 4,000 nm, or visible wavelengths, basically. So, all right, let me not get into the science part because you guys can be like, you don't want to hear it. All right, okay, here we go. So, aluminum for the mirror is better for the UV. Silver and gold, not so much. But what they found is that these metals absorb the UV and absorb the infrared, and they don't reflect. You know, and it's more the reaction towards the light, which I thought was really fascinating. You know, and the older the mirror, the more they're going to have the silver or the gold, which are better at being the conductive energy. So I'm telling you, there's something there. But both aluminum and silver mirror for your average, for you looking at yourself is good. Regular bathroom mirrors. Uh, some of them can reflect a little thermal infrared, and now FLIR, which is a forward-looking infrared. It's these little things people walk around with, read body heat and that type of thing. And they're good for some things. They're not good for other things. I think a lot of like paranormal investigators are using it now just to try to collect any extra stuff. But to answer the question, it's an absorbing type of situation. So what happens then? What happens when you absorb? So if I got the best pictures ever of of an apparition, and I mean you can see through her, you can see her hairline, you can see her face, her eyes, you can see her fingers, what she's holding. She's holding some kind of box. Then in another picture, Pete, the guy who's doing the investigations with him, is leaning over a desk, putting his recorder down, just, do some EVPs and kind of just leave it in the room and let it roll. And she was right in his face, as you're looking at him to his left of the picture. She's right in his face. And you zoom in on the picture, you can see her face right in his face. And I'm like, did you feel anything? Anything? Because, supposedly that you get the cold spot when they're trying to manifest themselves and whatever. And we focused on that area. And by the way, you can see I think you can see this investigation. Pretty sure it's on the YouTube still. YouTube.com/Discovery Paranormal, like all one word, Discovery Paranormal. But it's interesting because it's I don't know, the whole thing. The guy was hearing noises over by his computer. Where she was standing, there was no room to stand. There was a computer there, like for the whole length, because the guy was an architectural landscape, and he had like two computers cranking. So at night, and that was his bedroom. So at night, he would hear his keys start to type, tick, 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 and it wouldn't type anything out, but there was definitely something in there trying to send him a message. And he saw his he had like wires going up to a speaker up on the wall for his for music in his computer and whatever. He saw those wires like floating in the air. And then he also said there was something in the apartment peeping at him, peeking at him. So this is why we went in there to begin with. And but it was no doubt it was that UV light that exposed her so well for that camera. And the camera was not an infrared camera. It was a standard hunting camera, full color standard hunting camera. And it caught that those amazing images. And the one picture where she was just kind of off by herself, there was nobody in that room. And I like to have enough cameras and enough automatic cameras around where I know who's where and when. So there was only four of us there, and we were all in the next room. So cool though, cool. It makes you think. And when you do, one thing I don't see from these ghost hunter guys, you watch these people, and they're all. I know they're all bull crap. I know. That dude Zach, what's his name? Last time I tuned in, he's got this little uniform, like looks like some Czechoslovakian soldier or something. I don't know what's going on. I don't get it. I don't want to know. If it means something to him special, I don't care. You know, I don't think that they're scientists in the true sense of the word. They're just flim flam people, and if they get some evidence, I'm sure it's completely by luck. So, but it's people like that. You would think that it's like the Taps guys, right? When I first started watching that, and I was on Long Island, a terrible relationship, and I had to add that in there because I always have to add that in there because it was it was horrible, horrificable. But anyway, I had free time on my hands. I started watching this Taps. I was like, is this real? What's going on with these guys? They're like rotor rooter guys, and they're running around looking for ghosts. I thought that was kind of unique, kind of cool. It wasn't the first show out there. There was another show on the Family Channel I had noticed, and there was a British show that kind of, I think that started the whole thing to begin with. Anyway, it I like the fact that they kind of used pretty much anything and anything to to get some evidence, and that's the whole thing about collecting evidence, whether it's a voice or a picture or a video. That's the best. But hey, if you're using, we use baby powder on like wooden floors to try to get a footprint. We've gotten that footprint. We've done extensive EVP sessions where I would say basically every answer came through. I can hear it. People tell me they can't hear it, but then there's these Class A EVPs that everybody can hear, and you put out there, and there's no mistaking what that is. And they don't sound like they belong in this world. They don't carry through the air. They're very flat. The sound is very flat and very monotone. And I've gotten these conversations. Now, Pete and I, we know each other, and since I'm recording it, I know the sounds that he makes. I know the sounds that I make. Even natural breathing sounds, just natural stuff. When you have a full sentence in between of two guys talking, you know what you've got. Sometimes it was female, sometimes it was male, sometimes it was a kid, sometimes it was a kid and it didn't sound like a kid. It kind of sounded like a kid, but it was like somebody misrepresenting themselves as a kid. That happens too, you know? So, but getting back to scrying, I think there's more to this. Even in ancient Taoism, there's the Taoist mirrors, or the Thai mirrors, and there's every culture either was bugged out by their reflection, or they were truly using these things as devices, and like from the Mayans, that would, if they based their whole culture on that, that's pretty severe, I think, anyway. So, but between scrying and other things, clairvoyance or any kind of whatever, scrying basically depends on your impressions and visions, you know, I think, in what you're receiving. So still, it's your ability. But did the Mayans have some special way, some quantum physic way that was lost or we don't have, or something that was given to them temporarily, so they could communicate or whatever? Did they have something that people don't have? So like the middle of March, by then I'm gonna be like in New Mexico, and I'm gonna stay up by Chaco Canyon, and I want to kind of chill out in that area and see what I feel about the whole place. I've been in that region before, never there specifically, more towards Shiprock and the skin, skinwalkers and all that. Before there was Skinwalker Ranch, before there was all this crap on TV, there was skinwalkers. You know that? And there was a Navajo, and there's a lot. They're not just the only ones with stories of that, but it's basically a story. But anyway, that's all the same general area. And then to the north of there, you got these Aztec pyramid development. So you're talking about a very busy area at one time, And Chaco Canyon is where all Native American nations have come together to kind of deal with each other, trade, whatever they had going on. They had meetings and that type of thing. So it's much deeper than just a place. And you look at pictures of Chaco Canyon, look at pictures of their developments, and tell me that these things weren't made for UFOs to land on. You know, I don't know why any other way they would do it like that. But anyway, so no matter what you got, when you're trying to talk, all right, let's see. And do I believe in, oh, there's someone sending you a message and there's a bird's feather in your path, and then all of a sudden that's a message? You don't think birds lose feathers? Is it a message? If you want to believe it's a message, if you think it's a message, I think it's a message. It shows pattern baldness in the bird. Probably has bird flu. So, but scrying itself is neither a single, clearly defined, or formal discipline. And there's no uniformity in the procedures of scrying. So, and that repeatedly, people, there's all people that put their stint on it. This is how they do it. But it's your own personal experience. You can't really tell someone how to do something exactly because that person is going to do it from their own experience, their own ability, right? Anyway, I like the whole thing about the mirrors. And I've seen enough about mirrors to understand that there's a hell of a lot to it. And you can it's something you can feel. I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean. Because you all have mirrors, and some people have to. I know people that cover their mirror at night because they're afraid to sleep in front of it. Mirror belonged to their grandmother or something, and they're afraid to sleep, or they think they're being watched from the mirror. They keep looking at their mirror, right? So I'm going to read you this about reflection. Reflections from flat surfaces. And this is the deal. If there's a spirit in a room, right? The physical presence that they have is very limited, and it would probably be just comprised of frequencies and light, some kind of light. So you look into yourself in the mirror. It's reflecting the real time, real world you, speed of light, whatever light's available in the room, you, right? But then if you see a spirit in the mirror, it's reflecting the place that they're in, which is interesting. So anyway, all right, follow me here, right? So reflections from flat surfaces are easy to understand. The reflection appears to be the same distance from the other side of the mirror as the viewer's eye from the mirror. Also, when light is reflected from a mirror, it bounces off at the same angle in the opposite direction from which it hit. For example, if the light hits a flat or plane mirror at a 30-degree angle from the left, it will bounce off at a 30-degree angle to the right. However, if the surface of the mirror is curved, the angles of the reflection are different at different points of the surface. The most common curved surface used in optical devices is a spherical mirror. If the mirror is convex or curved outward, it will reflect a wider area in which images appear smaller further away. All that you've seen your little rear view mirror on your car. All right, if you have one. If the surface is concave or curved inward, the group of light rays from a distant source is reflected back towards a single location known as the focal point. It's interesting, so much is involved in the reflection, isn't it? When you look at all the math and the science involved. So Newton used a concave spherical mirror to make his reflecting telescope, a design that's still popular with amateur astronomers due to its simplicity, low cost, and high degree of image quality. In a Newtonian reflecting telescope, light rays from a distant object, which are essentially parallel because they come from so far away, strike a concave main mirror at the same angle. So, away from this, getting back to the haunted mirrors, if there is a spirit in that mirror and is reflecting the mirror, or it captured the image and somehow a part of it's there. I was listening to a show the other day, and they were talking about a spirit can't be in more than one place at one time. But I know that they can because we've done investigations where they've told us that they're in 9 places, 8 places, and it's kind of like they're kind of centered in one place, and they could either make a conference call in a weird way to those other places as long as they have some kind of an attachment there. like my friend's refrigerator that was haunted. And I'm like, you don't think that the ghost is in the refrigerator, but she bought it at a yard sale. And I said, go back to the yard sale and asked if the person's dead who owned the refrigerator. Right. So she went back to the yard sale. And it turns out the person had died. And I said, well, you got some guy's refrigerator. Now, to a man, that's kind of the center of their universe. There's two, their wallet and their refrigerator. If you look at the yin and yang, does the two little dots go round and round. Okay. But when you understand it's not just a reflection, it's not just a mirror, but it's the air, it's the electric in the air, it's the distance, it's all kinds of stuff. Who's to say, like, just like I'm a big believer in these magnetic slices of time, and they're all kind of layered together, you know, endless. It's endless, right? They overlap as a matter of fact, which is why I think people have premonitions of the future because these things are overlapped because they can't be endless. Anyway, when you think about that, and let's say you're looking at your computer desktop, you open up a file, open up another file in that file, and keep going until you find a file that's not going to go any further. You open that up, and these little slices, images, right? And they all go into one file eventually, which all goes onto your desktop. We have the luxury of picking from one thing to the other instead of having to go from point A to point B and having it be in real time. Obviously, that would be crazy for a computer. It was like that with music at one time, especially live bands. You can't fast forward them. But, when it came down to cassette tapes, kids today will never know the stress of trying to find something on your favorite tape, you know. And if you didn't have some sophisticated cassette tape player that could even like stop between songs, you were sitting there clicking buttons trying to find your song. Click, 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 click. Now a record, you just take the needle, lift it up, and kind of put it where you want. Zit, 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 and scratch the record. Arr! Then it would have the pop and the scratch as it goes around every time. Boom, boom, boom. And you hear it so many times, you think that's part of the damn song. Later on, you hear the song on the radio and it doesn't have that scratch. You think like, what happened? That's a different song. Sounds weird. So yeah, slices a magnetic time. And in that slice of time, now that you had, let's say you had this really sophisticated electronic device, right? So sophisticated, it's not even based on electric, based on something else that we don't know about. that's how brand new it is, right? And you can pluck out one of these slices of time, like you can pluck out a video file from your computer and hit play and become part of that. Not necessarily change anything in the future or the past or nothing like that, but be part of it and interact with it because you would be able to sync your frequency and your energy and all that with that. So, in a weird way, I feel like mirrors and glass have a very small bit to do with that. I kind of feel that there's a connection there. So, in a vacuum, the speed of light is constant, right? They denote it as c. It's constant. If it stopped, you'd never know it. You would know. If it went back, you would know. Your bathroom experiences would be completely different. So, but when light encounters a transparent material, it slows down, right? And of course, the speed of light and radio waves travel at the same speed. uh, Easier to block light than radio waves, that's for sure. So, the degree to which a material causes light to slow down is actually called the material's refractive index. Right. So what's important in all this stuff I'm saying, when light passes from a region of lower n, which is that refractive index, such as air, through a surface into a region of a higher n, such as glass, the light changes direction. This means its path is closer to perpendicular to normal to the surface. So things can change. Things change, right? With light, things change with the speed of light. Things change when light passes from a region of a higher end to a lower end. I feel the same way about bad neighborhoods. Things change, and I don't want to be there, unless I have to be. It bends away from the normal direction. So I think that we can go, I don't want to go too much deeper into the science part because it's not as much to do with the haunted part, but I think the haunted part, I don't think people are stuck in a mirror. I think that people are, you know what I think? I think is that slice of time. I think that there are things that can just grab a bit, a big chunk of your life and hold on to it. Imagine a mirror that is in a house for 100 years, through different families, all the things that it's seen and been part of. You know, do you really think that in a radio wave weird world or that type of thing, or a light world, that it can capture that? Or do you think that if those spirits are in the room, that you can see them in those devices because they're not stuck in the mirror, they're in the room and the mirror is reflecting them? Maybe even a different time, maybe the reflection, it comes down to timeline too. When I was driving through Arizona, I was headed up towards Flagstaff, and you're still pretty far away from the mountain. When you can see it, I can see it, but I can't be there unless I get there. And it's going to take me a couple hours to get there at the high rate of speed I was traveling. And it gets closer and closer and closer. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger, you know, but I'm not going to be there unless I can get there. But just because I can see it and we're in the same realm doesn't mean I can connect with it that quickly. And if you're not driving, if you're walking or something, or riding a bike or on a horse or a dog sled, it's going to take you a lot longer, especially a dog sled in Arizona, depending. All right, depending on what kind of year. Let's not get technical. So I think the Mayans were a very interesting culture. I think that the ones who taught them about that connection, it gave them a connection. Yeah, I know people that sit in the dark and look at themselves. They think they can see their aura. I've seen myself glow in the dark in a mirror back in the day when I used to get wasted when I was a teenager. You know what I mean? And that's the only thing you can do. But I think it was the glow that I absorbed from the video games I was playing, and the radiation from the television made me glow. Didn't have to use a flashlight for years, or headlights. Man, how's that? No, seriously. I mean, why not? Where do you think all those imprint ghosts come from? The ones that are residual, the ones that you can't communicate with, the ones that are just there. Where do you think they come from? I mean, there are intelligent. There's what we call earthbound, who are kind of stuck because they did something, whatever, and they either don't want to go on or can't go on or whatever that is. There's visitations, back and forth, wherever they go and where they come back from. That type of thing too, and then that residual of just kind of it's there. But where do you find yourself in all of that? And you feel weird when you look into a mirror? You see lots of horror movies. People look into a mirror, and then their image in the mirror comes alive and punches them in the face, or whatever it does. There's something off about it. But but when it comes to conjuring up, if you're not If you don't know what you're doing, don't do it. How's that? That's my only thing I can say to you guys. That's the only advice I can give. Only advice I can give you tonight. Don't do it. Do it if you know what the hell you're doing. Most people don't know what the hell they're doing. Definitely smudge if you feel right about it, though. I kind of think that if it's not the device, it's the belief that clears out the energy. The incense and the banging of a gong and dancing around naked around the fire is fun stuff, man. Don't get me wrong. But does it do a lot to bring about the spiritual world? I think that it's your belief and the energy you put out there that brings it in and moves it around. So anyway, I'm going to end that on this note, and you guys can go sit in a dark room tonight, right, with all the lights off, everything. Let your eyeballs like get used to the light. It takes 45 minutes to kind of get used to it, but really a couple of hours, to really get used to it. And then look in that mirror. Look at yourself in the mirror. See that. See how many faces come out. See how many faces are around, and they're gonna come get you. I'll see you guys next week on this show. Bye.